I saw this video about the border, and I wanted to get right to it. The traffic at the border has plummeted. And there's a station in Washington, D.C., the ABC affiliate, and they had some pretty dramatic reporting. Let's watch. Okay, so that's pretty dramatic. I also wanted to play a video for you, Jim Avila, with President Trump aboard Air Force One. And he's talking to reporters and he's touting his success and saying this is, there's never been anything like this, that he's doing things so well. And you can see it because of the border traffic. And I have a question for you about that. But let's watch this video of Trump talking to reporters aboard Air Force One. I think Tony's got the video.
And most people are saying that. And it's an honor. We're bringing back our country. We're respected as a country again. And we're strongly respected. And people are amazed. I was with some very important people today, and they said that they've never seen a turnaround of a country as fast as this. Even look at our border. We have nobody coming in. And you can come into our country, but you have to come in legally. But we have nobody coming in to our country. It's almost shut down. They've never seen anything like it.
Yeah, we've never seen anything like this. So he's saying that he's successful because the border traffic is down. And I wonder, is that true, Jim Avila? Does that make him a success? Because I would argue that no one wants criminals in the United States. No one wants gang members in the United States, but scooping them up so that you have people that perhaps aren't gang members being sent to these horrible prisons or stomping all over the Constitution to get this done fast. I don't necessarily know that the ends justify the means and that equals success.
Well, there are a couple things. You have to go back just a little bit. So the numbers at the border began to go down in the last quarter of 2024. Joe Biden was president at that time. The reason why that the numbers have gone down is because most of those who are coming across the border not at the entry points, but through the wall or through cracks in the fences, that kind of thing, were actually asylum seekers. So those are people who were coming from all kinds of countries around the world, who believed that they were suffering persecution from their governments. And so they came to the United States, the land of the free, home of the brave, to start over and to try to live in peace. Biden started at the end of his term because they knew that immigration was a real problem and that Donald Trump was making points on that. They eliminated the asylum. You could not come across the border. So the law says, as soon as you touch ground in the United States, no matter where you touch ground, and this is still the law, you can apply for asylum. And so you come across, and I've seen this myself in covering the border for years. People come across, they see a Border Patrol person in green, and they run towards them, not away from them, because the Border Patrol agents, all they have to tell the Border Patrol agents is, I'm here for asylum, and they have to answer a few questions that say that distinguish them as asylum seekers and that they're afraid to go back to their country. And therefore, once that became out, the cartels know the rules and know what's going on. When they heard that was happening, they instructed all of their people who came across, who they brought across, whether they were asylum seekers and genuinely asylum seekers and in danger from their countries or not, to tell the Border Patrol agents that that's why they were here, and the Border Patrol agents had to accept them into the country, and they became so full that they couldn't keep them in custody while they waited for their court dates. They just began releasing them in the United States. So That's what was going on in February of 2024. Biden stopped it at the end of 24. Word got out, and then it continued under Trump. No asylum. Continued under Trump. And so people now know, because cartels tell them, that that's not going to work anymore. You have to go to the port of entry. And so that's what's happening now. That's why. So can Trump take credit for it? Sure. So can Biden.
Mm-hmm.
Is it? So the other part of your question was, does it trample on our Constitution and our laws?
The way in
And it
which it's being
does, and
done.
our way
Yeah.
of life. Yeah, it does, because the law says that we are a place where you can apply for asylum, and that you can come, and once you get here, no matter how you get here, and this happens in Florida as well. The Cubans were coming across. They stepped on the United States, in the United States, and they asked for asylum.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that rule that law has now been eliminated. Not on the books. It's not. It is not. It's no longer enforced. And in fact, what happens is now you have to get on an app. The government has delivered. For those who don't know, the government has now. Biden started this. Developed an actual app on phones that the asylum seekers have to stop in Mexico near the border.
Mm-hmm.
Then they get on the app. They apply for an appointment to go to the border crossing, to the actual points of entry, and then they get to apply for asylum. So that's what's happened. There isn't a huge crush of people at the border anymore.
Right.
Both Biden and Trump can take credit for it, and the American people seem to accept it and want it to continue. The polls show that they even support deportation, and that's I'll let you ask another question, but I have another thing to say. But
No, please go ahead. Go ahead.
So the other problem is that what the Republicans did is they took 2 or 3 incidents where criminals assaulted women or committed crimes.
Mm-hmm.
There are like 2 or 3 of those.
Kate Steinle,
In reality,
Riley, right?
right.
And
In
they
reality,
made big touch point issues.
right, huge. In the Republican propaganda machine, they made that a huge issue.
Mm-hmm.
In reality, the people who come across the border, even then, were coming across to work. San Diego and border towns across this country have the lowest crime rates in the country. San Diego is one of the safest cities. It's in the top 5 of the safest cities every year. So immigrants are not coming across the border and committing crimes here or anyplace else. And studies show repeatedly that immigrants, whether they're legal or illegal, commit fewer crimes than Americans who are here legally and who were born here. But they created this fear, which the Republicans are very good at doing, and with Fox News and the rest, these caravans of criminals coming across. None of that was true. In fact, it was exposed that some of the video that Fox was using wasn't even from the United States or from the border. It was from Syria or places like that. So, they misled the country into abandoning our values. And, that's why the French even said, maybe we should take back the Statue of Liberty.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So, that is not, so that's what's happened. And it really has changed, but Americans seem to be okay with that change. And and I don't even think that if the Democrats were to win in the midterms, that they'll look at immigration and try to change it. That's not the pinch point in our democracy right now. I
Mhm.
mean, what's gonna hurt Trump, and where he's the reason that that the Democrats have a chance of winning again in the midterms is because of his autocratic oligarchy. Uh, he wants to be king, and then now he's talking about extending and 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 going for a third term. Those are the things that resonate with Americans and that are hurting him in the polls, not immigration.
It's interesting that you mentioned that because I was talking with Tony before the show, and we're talking about the fact that people were whipped up into this anger. And in Tony's mind, it seems to be somewhat justified. He was telling me about a friend whose family lives near the border in Arizona, and they have horses, and the horses get stolen, and their fields get trashed with people coming through. Those are people in border states maybe that are feeling the effects. And perhaps it's this manufactured anger, but it seems like people are done with laws not being enforced and want laws to be enforced and want people that are not here legally to go. There's not a lot of sympathy for people that maybe came here seeking a better life. I found what something really interesting in that report from ABC in Washington D.C. that there are packages now being offered to people, travel packages to get back to where you came from. And the reporting indicates that there are a lot of people that are self-deporting, that are looking and kind of seeing the situation here and saying they'd really rather not be in America.
Yeah, those are two issues. Okay, let me address
Yeah.
first Tony's concern.
Mhm.
I've been to those places. I've talked to those ranchers. There are people right along the border in Arizona, especially, and some in Texas, where people come across illegally and they dispose of um, whatever they brought to get across. And yes, but crime rates again are not high in those places. They're coming across to go through. They don't want to stop. They're not stopping in Arizona, except for maybe to get some food. Um, so the crime rates remain low. The specific ranchers right across the border, yes, they do suffer some with some trash being on their property, and 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 the I had not heard of stolen horses before. It could be happening. I'm not sure.
Mhm.
The second issue you brought up has to do with deportation. So many people who are here illegally, who don't have their papers, are afraid that they're going to be picked up by ICE in the middle of the night, separated from their families, and sent back to their home countries. So what they are doing is some of them are self-deporting. We are seeing that phenomenon, and it's because the random nature. Trump claimed that he was going to deport. They were going to go after criminals first, but as we've seen, he's deporting everybody. So it's not if you happen to be um, at work in a place, they're doing raids on places of business in, in across the country. Those are not criminals. Those are people working, and they're sending them back. So that message is getting across to people who are here and are law abiding. And many of them have been here for years, 10 years or so, and they're getting sent back. There are people now getting sent to El Salvador. I mean, there's a guy today in the news, uh, a guy who was sent to that prison in El Salvador who, uh, by mistake,
Yeah.
and the Trump administration says they can't do anything about it. They're not even trying to get him out, even though he didn't deserve to go there. He has no criminal record whatsoever, and they sent him there, and they're going to leave him there. The cruelty with the way this is being done is what Americans should um, step up against, and that, and not only that, we're beginning to see. Um, I saw in the paper today places, cities like in Minnesota, who they can't harvest their crops.
Yeah.
Uh, California is going to have some of that problem too.
Right.
So we're going to see when you send all the working people back, or when they decide it's too scary to be here anymore, it's going to affect our economy and it's going to affect our workforce.
Yeah,
You don't
absolutely.
see any Americans wanting to go work in the fields or even in the hot
No.
kitchens of our restaurants.
Right.
That's just not happening.
No, no. I mean, the truth is, the cold hard truth is, we need these people because we've based our economy off paying people so little to do jobs that are backbreaking, that, citizens that can make more money don't want to do. And so then those jobs that are crucial get left empty, and now what?
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
what's happening is that um, we've set up an entire economy
Mm.
uh, that is based on that,
Yeah.
and the unemployment rate is low. So it's not that Americans are going without jobs.
Yeah.
They have jobs, so they just have better jobs, and we're using immigrants, and this speaks to the entire problem of immigration. There needs to be a comprehensive immigration reform,
Yeah.
so that allows legal immigration, whether it be worker programs. We've had in the past in this country programs where people can come across, and we still have some of them in some cases, and they can work and then they can go home. We need that. We need also, the courts in order to come across in the United States or to get here legally. It can take up to 20 years
Wow.
for people to get through, 10 to 20 years. That is unacceptable, and that's why people do what they're doing. That's why they're so desperate to get across. So, they need to fix the border, but they also need to fix the court system that would make it a smoother transition. They need to change laws so that there are worker programs. There are worker programs for for businesses like um, uh, schools and doctors and things like that, um, that allow people in to work. Um, there's not as many agricultural programs as there is needed, or programs that allow people to come in if they have a job, if they can, at a restaurant and stay, and that's a problem.
It seems, though, especially for people that are angry over the issue of immigration, that
Why are they angry, Kim? They're not affected. I live in San Diego. I have no fear whatsoever. They're angry because they've been they've been pumped up by BS. They're afraid they're going to be Lincoln Riley. Well, Lincoln Riley was. I mean, the number of people that happens to. It's terrible when it happens, but
Mhm.
it happens. People don't get as riled up when it happens when it's American crime versus American crime. I mean, that it's rare that an undocumented immigrant commits a crime, and they're pumped up and they're stoked up and they want it to end, but it's because of I'll use their term, because of fake news.
Well, you see these people that are angry over immigration because they may have been pumped up over fake news, or they may have somehow been affected. Maybe they got into an accident and the person didn't have a driver's license, was here in an undocumented fashion. So they feel like they've been wronged in some way.
Do you know anybody that's happened to, Kim?
I do. I think it happened to Tony, I believe.
Yeah, it happened to
Tony
me.
got in an accident and
Yeah,
the person didn't have a.
fake
Yeah.
license, fake everything, fake registration, everything. Yeah,
And did your insurance cover it?
I still had to pay my deductible, so I had to pay
Yeah.
it
Yeah,
all for the repairs.
yeah.
And when I called the cops, I was like, they have nothing. They're like, if no one's hurt, no one's coming.
And so let me ask you this, Tony.
Yeah,
Um,
that's just
do
what
you think
happened.
there are more uninsured motorists who are Americans than there are that are immigrants?
It's not the one who hit me though,
Yeah. Okay. Well,
and because that car was totally shouldn't have been on the road. I know, but I'm just saying the one that hit me, I had the California special, so.
okay.
You
I
I
know.
think
see,
it's
It's just
pretty
what
rare.
happened.
I think it's
so
pretty
I
rare.
know.
you
I know.
hear
It's
a
what happened to me
story
though.
like
I know.
that, yeah.
I know.
You hear a story like that, and people are. I think that may be what allows this, whipped up news to inflame people even further, and then you get people not really having much empathy and not caring what happens to people. And I guess my argument is, even if you don't care what happens to people who in my mind are just trying to make a better life for themselves, still, if you're a patriot, you should care about the Constitution and you should care about the rule of law. So, is the place that we find ourselves in where Trump is, you could say partially Biden's rules as well, but we're seeing this massive drop off in border traffic. And maybe people that are angry about this situation look and say, oh, well, at least somebody's doing something finally, right? We can see results now. Are we are we trading who we are as Americans so that we can get results? How can we get results but still go about it in a way that we don't lose ourselves?
Well, we have to change. We have to have the comprehensive immigration reform, and there needs to be new laws. The last time that attempted was in 2015. I covered that. It was in D.C. at the time. Uh, Here's the names of the people who signed on to that comprehensive immigration reform: Lindsey Graham, Marco Rubio, um, Jeff Flake, John McCain. Republicans and Democrats
Mhm.
proposed this comprehensive bill, which would have added to the Border Patrol, which would have included more technology at the border to stop the illegal immigration, and would have provided for a path to citizenship for those who were here already and who had not broken the law, would have um, installed more judges to take up the asylum claims. Uh, that was so back at that time, before MAGA, there was the Tea Party,
Mhm.
and the Tea Party undercut that and killed it. And it hasn't been able to. There hasn't been since then a comprehensive program to get that done. There was something close um, that the Biden administration proposed, and that both the Democrats and Republicans in the House and Senate were for, and Donald Trump, just before the election last year, uh, killed it, told his people not to vote for it because it would have solved the problem, and he wanted the problem so he could run on it.
Mhm.
And that's what he did. Now, um, is the border safe? Is the border less of a problem right now? It is. But I think there are going to be unintended consequences that we're going to see with the labor force, and with the fact, we don't. So they say Social Security even because is going to be a problem
Yeah.
because we're not producing enough Americans to pay into Social Security to pay for the next generation.
Right.
We need immigrants, and what we're doing is we're telling immigrants to go home, and that's going to be a problem. Not only does it affect, as you say, who we are as Americans. I mean, America's that bright shining light that people look to, and yeah, they came here, but now um, we're turning that around.
Yeah. And that breaks my heart that we don't stand for those ideals anymore. As you say, time to give back the Statue of Liberty, take down the poem. We're closed for business.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you,
think
Jim
both
Avila.
both practically and spiritually,
Yeah, it's true.
eventually there are going to be unintended consequences.
One of my favorite parts of being on the Mark Thompson show is getting to speak with you. Jim Avila, I'm so grateful that you took the time today. It's always enlightening, and you're so wise and learned on these subjects. So thank you for coming in and thank you for talking to us. And I will see you on Friday.
All right, my pleasure. Take care.
Thanks. Bye, Jim Avila.
Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell, you'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.